Welcome and thanks for joining the Let's Talk Digital Marketing Podcast. Join host Mike Sharp of mikesonlineacademy.com as he shares valuable insights and advice, helping you to become digitally inspired. That's here on the Let's Talk Digital Marketing Podcast.
There you go, in progress.
Mm-hmm.
So basically you're Gareth Robertson from Design Pit.
Yeah.
So a graphic designer, podcaster.
Yeah.
With Podpit.
Yeah.
And author.
Yeah. Sort of.
Dad.
Yeah.
OBE.
OBE. No. N-O-B. I think it's probably more appropriate for me, but yeah.
It's good to have you.
Cheers, mate.
So
yeah.
So we'll start just with a brief outline of how you came to this point, like how you started and how Design Pit came to be into being.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So Design Pit's 10 years old this year. I've always been a graphic designer. So I went to university, finished in 2005, and I was very fortunate. I managed to get a job about 4 months after finishing, which is quite quick really in the industry at the time. And I basically went straight into a job for a small little boutique design agency up in the Midlands where I'm originally from. It was a brilliant place to learn my craft and my trade and learn about the industry, because being a small company, I was sort of placed into meetings with CEOs of like rather large companies, and also like down to the micro business sort of end of the scale with sole owner managed operators and everything in between really. So I've always had that exposure to, you know, a variety of business people, and that kind of sowed the seed of thought that one day I would like to have my own business and do this for myself. I stayed at that company for about 7 years, and then I had a bit of personal upheaval in my life at the time, and I ended up splitting up with an ex and ended up moving back to my parents' house because I had nowhere else to live. And then I decided at that point that, I think I was about 27 at the time. I decided then that, like, I'd up to that point, I'd always made very safe, sound, logical, sensible decisions in life, certainly in my profession, like as a professional capacity. And I decided that, you know, if I'm going to do something a bit wild and wacky, now is a great opportunity to do it, because I've got no kids, I've got no mortgage, you know, I'm living, you know, at my mum and dad's again. I've got no forward plan really, because I wasn't expecting to be in this position. So I sold my car, quit my job and went traveling. And I went to Australia and had about 2 or 3 months out there to sort of clear my head. And I actually had a visa for 12 months, but I ran out of money. So I had the holiday of a lifetime, basically, traveling across Australia. And it was just what I needed at the time. And I was literally backpacking on my Todd, you know, on the other side of the world. And it sort of, you know, in my head, I was thinking, look, if I can do this on my own, I can surely set a business up in the UK with all my friends and family close by, you know, that support network. I've got to be able to do this. So it gave me a sort of renewed sense of confidence to go with my gut feeling, which was to, you know, try and make it setting up on my own. So I came back from Oz and set the company up. I was based in a corner of a spare bedroom at my mum and dad's old house, and my mum and dad were amazing. I owe them so much in terms of the business, because they kept me for six months or so. Said, you know, look, you know, if you want to do this, you're passionate about it, we can see that, so get going. Don't pay us any rent, you know, just get yourself up and running. Well, I didn't take a wage for the first year. I literally just took out enough to, you know, eat and play rugby at the weekends. And, you know, I helped out as much as I could around my mum and dad's, but they were amazing to sort of support me through those early days. Wow. started networking and started to get a name for myself locally. And shortly after, I met Sarah, who later we'd get married. So you know, that was that relationship has sort of coincided with the growth of the business really at the end of that first year when I met her. And then we moved in together, and you know, things just started to happen really. And I'm, you know, very, very lucky that I did take the leap, because as soon as I took control and set the business up, I started to really enjoy my days a lot more than I ever had before. I really enjoyed design, but it means so much more when it's for you. And yeah, I was really fortunate that it's, you know, in the last sort of 10 years, which is a quarter of my life, so much has changed. You know, the business has grown, established, you know, in you know, a good reputation. You know, we got married, bought a house, had a baby. You know, all of that's happened in a quarter of my life. And up to that point, I didn't really know. You know, I was quite happy just doing my job, enjoying my days. You know, playing rugby at the weekend, going to the gym, like not really thinking too far ahead. But you know, I think taking control and going on my own, it sort of helped me, you know, become a more rounded person and plan ahead a bit more. So yeah.
And that was in Birmingham, was it?
Well, north of Birmingham, yeah. So I'm originally from Lichfield, which is actually in Staffordshire, but the central Birmingham train line north, the last stop is Lichfield. So I always say Birmingham because people don't necessarily know where Lichfield is, because it's quite a small little city. But yeah, so my accent is actually a Staffordshire accent, not a Brummie accent, which a lot of people down here do mistake. But I don't mind, because yeah, it gets me remembered, if anything else.
So what made you move down to Salisbury?
Well, the business was it was creaking, shall we say, and you know, every business goes through ups and downs, and we were going through a bit of a low point in 2000. I think it really started sort of back end of 2017, early 2018, and for a good 18 months, 2 years, the business really struggled, and it was all around the uncertainty around Brexit. So some of my bigger clients, 2 or 3 of them, were particularly sort of well, they were big clients, and they had links in Europe, and all of the uncertainty around Brexit forced them to assess their spend, and you know, rightly or wrongly in my opinion, marketing is often one of the first places that, you know, spend gets cut. And you know, one of the biggest company that I was working with, which was, you know, a reasonable chunk of the turnover, just turned the taps off. And what compounded it was that I can't remember exactly how many, but say in this company there were 25 brand managers, or 20 brand managers for different products. I was probably talking to 14 or 15 of them and doing work with them. So of those 15 people that I was talking to, I'd say probably 12 of them moved roles, moved out of marketing, or moved company at the same time that these cuts were being made. So it was just a perfect storm really, and it was such a shame, because we'd not really done anything wrong. I'd not really, you know, dropped the ball or anything like that. It was just a perfect storm, and you know, the spend was cut. While this was going on, unfortunately, my wife, who's a teacher, she was put at risk of redundancy, because the school she was teaching at was threatening closure. It was a private school. I'm not going to say where it was, but it was very badly managed as a school, and I'll say that openly now in hindsight, you know, because it was quite clear at the time as well, really. And the redundancy process was horrifically managed. And unfortunately for my wife, she ended up sort of hanging on in the hope that there was an investor that would keep the school open. Ultimately didn't happen. And she didn't have a job to go back to in the September, so she had to go into a supply agency, which was just soul destroying work really. She started looking for work for the academic year after, which would have been 2020, she couldn't find the job. And I just said to her, like, widen the search, because while she was going through that, I was busy restructuring the business and scaling it back, which was pretty soul destroying in itself. And I sort of quickly realised that I could actually scale it right back to just me again, work on a collaboration model with some of my existing suppliers and contacts, turn over significantly less, have less clients, but do more for them. And in switching to that model, I could probably earn more than I was when I had more staff, premises, overheads were like significant. I think at one point, at the point where I made the change, the overhead to stand still each month was about £9,000 a month, which is a lot of money. When some of your bigger clients are assessing spending and stopping spending. Like when I restructured, those overheads are right down now to like I think my overhead is significantly lower, to the point where I don't worry about it at all, because I know that I've got enough work month to month, and I'm working with great clients. I'm very fortunate, really. So I was doing that, and I quickly realised I don't need an office. I can work from anywhere. And I said to Sarah, I said, just widen the search. She said, well, how far wider? We were living in the Midlands, and I said, anywhere. We can go and live anywhere. You find the job that you want to do for you at this point in your career, and we'll just move. So we did that. She found a job in Salisbury. She applied, she got it. The house went on the market. We had a lovely house up in the Midlands, which sold really quickly. So we got the buyer in place. Then we went into lockdown. COVID hit, and so there was a bit of uncertainty around that. But we just soldiered through. Basically, we got the sale done, which was a bit of an up and down time, but we got there in the end, and we're here now. So
So you were establishing yourself down here during the pandemic.
So that's where we met, I think, wasn't it? A TBN Boardroom Network. So the plan, if COVID hadn't happened, my plan was to basically come down to the area in May, June, July, in the run up to the move that we'd envisaged happening in August, and basically do a couple of networking meetings in the local area. And I'd earmarked, after some Google searching, the Boardroom Network as one of the groups I was really keen to get involved with. Obviously, I was quite happy to travel and do that, but then when COVID hit, everything went online, and I noticed that there were, quite vibrant meetings online happening. And I thought, well, I might as well just join now, because we're in lockdown, going to be in lockdown for the foreseeable. It's quite obvious that was the case. So I might as well just crack on and just earmark Thursday mornings as, that time, putting in the groundwork, basically. And that's what I did. So, and by the time we moved, I'd actually got some pretty good relationships built through the screen, by doing that. So if God forbid, if we ever do have lockdowns again, if anyone's in a similar situation to me and you're trying to move your business, get networking online, because it really worked for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a similar experience.
Oh, right.
Okay. It certainly helped me in many ways in terms of business and marketing.
Because you're from Mancunian, aren't you? Originally, you're from North. A long time ago. Long time ago, back in the distant past. So with graphic design, obviously it touches on digital marketing. What would you say would be your advice to digital marketers or any business when it comes to graphic design? What advice would you give to someone just starting out and getting their brand sorted out? And I think the key thing, really, I think my business is slightly more than just graphic design. I sort of encroach into the world of marketing as well. in the terms of like I can help people and businesses and support them with their marketing plans, because I do believe that design and marketing are intrinsically linked. You can't have one without the other. There will come a time in every business's lifespan where they will need, significant support from graphic designers as they start to build their brand and identity and form a marketing strategy around that within their marketplace. So, I was watching The Apprentice the other day, and one of the things that is very apparent in all of the tasks that these people do on The Apprentice is that they always have to brand the task. So they have to create an identity for it. They have to create a logo for it, and they have to create, that identity and ethos around, whatever it is they've been tasked to do. And it's really interesting that, because I know that everyone says, you always get beaten down on price, and it's just part of life and business. But doing design on the cheap is not the answer. Doing design right is the answer. So finding a design support partner, service provider that you get on with, talk to, relate to, and who asks the right questions to really get under the bonnet of your business, like that's the person you need to be relying on, and it should cost what it costs. So, don't see graphic design as a cost, see it as an investment, because without, like, graphic design builds the credibility around your business, because visually you need to look appealing to the right type of person. So, and this is where the blurred lines start, I think, because you've got design gives you those visual bullets, but marketing is the gun that fires them. So I always think people start in the wrong place a lot of the time with marketing, and they start with what they think is right, which is the obvious place to start a lot of the time. But what you really need to do is start by thinking about what your customer wants, because you don't buy from you, your customer does. So it's really key to build a customer profile, for the right type of person that's fit for your business. And then if you've got existing customers in place, be in touch with them quite regularly for feedback. Ask them what you're doing well. Ask them what you're not doing so well. Ask them if there's anything else that you could be doing and areas where you could improve. Because if you don't have that, don't collect that data, then you're not going to improve. So, and this is where you need to, as a designer, that information is key to me to be able to design something that is fit for purpose. And, if you've not got a purpose for a design, it's just art. Yeah. Yeah. So that's basically, I suppose it's a really long answer this, sorry. But for a new business starting out, or smaller businesses, don't do design on the cheap. Don't do it yourself. Get someone in who knows what they're doing, and invest in design, because it is so important to paint your picture in the best possible light.
I mean, would this apply to people like window cleaners, and even they should have a branding and
absolutely
marketing and branding?
A lot of people,
I should say.
Yeah, a lot of people who are, small, like tradies, for example, oh, I haven't got a brand. Well, have you got a reputation? Yeah. And if you've got a reputation, then you've got a brand, because effectively they're one and the same thing. If you're known because as a window cleaner, because you turn up on time to do your quote, you turn up on time to do the clean, you put you turn up to collect your money when you say, or you set up your direct debit when you say you're going to do it. The windows are always clean. You're always smart and tidy. Your van's always been cleaned. If you get known for these things, then that's your reputation. But ultimately, that is what feeds into your brand identity as well. So for anyone who says, like, we get a lot of our work based on our reputation, well, there you go, you've got a brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is important for small micro businesses right up to, obviously it gets more complex as you get bigger, you know. There's more things to consider, but yeah, everyone's got a brand, whether they like it or not.
That's very true. So part of your services include not just graphic design then, but also you work on things like reputation, marketing, consistency.
Yeah. So we were just talking before we started the recording, but I've just started. Well, I've not started. It was a while ago that I've started to develop it, but I'm in the process of rolling out some testing for some workshops that I'm about to launch, hopefully later this year, sort of May, June time, where I basically take small groups of business owners, probably more towards the micro end of the scale, you know, micro and SME business owners, to really help them to understand what a brand is, what an identity is, what a logo is, how these things interact with each other, because they're all different. They all support one another. Talk about customer profiling, understanding who your customer is, where they are, what they do, what they look like, and all of that. Then building CVPs, customer value proposition. So once you know what your customer looks like, that profile is, how do you talk to them? What's in it for them? Where's the value? We start to develop unique selling propositions. We start to develop uncover really what the mission of your business is, because every business has one. It's just you might not know it yet. And then talk about the marketing mix, and how you can develop a 90-day marketing plan that will help you stay on track, and so you are saying the right things at the right time to the right people, and that you are consistent with it, because consistency is key with marketing. If it works, keep doing it, and if it stops working, stop and do something else that does work. You know, that's basically the nuts and bolts of it. You know, if you've not got customers coming into your business, then you haven't got a business. So that marketing activity that funnels that and funnels people in, the right type of people in, you know, you need to be able to look at that, identify what's working, and keep doing it, and doing it, improving it, doing it better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned before the recording started about different social media channels, and what's your opinion on using social media for branding and marketing?
Obviously, it depends on the business, but I would say, as a broad brush comment, social media is critical to businesses in some way, shape or form. Businesses will need to leverage social media and online networking in different ways. I know you're a big avid fan of Facebook, obviously, with what you do in your business. I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook, as we were saying. But that's more to do with the fact that I used to use Facebook a lot, and I've stepped right back from it recently, because through the lockdowns and the pandemics, I just got really tired of the fake news and the opinions that were shared. People getting so irate about stuff that you can't control, so why bother, you know? So I've stepped right back from that. And it's kind of followed in my business as well, that I focus my attentions on areas where I feel I can garner the most exposure. And I think that's a really key point for businesses of all shapes and sizes. You don't have to be on everything, you know, unless you are Guinness or Nike or Audi. You don't have to have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn. You don't have to have all of them, because your customers won't be on all of them. You know, you need to identify, when you do your customer profiling, you need to identify where your customers are, and then make sure you're in that space as well. So if you're an IFA, for example, and you're selling pensions, or you're selling, I don't know, later life planning advice or funeral plans or stuff like that, you don't really need to be on TikTok or Snapchat because that's full of kids. So you might as well just, if you are on Snapchat and TikTok doing whatever you do as an IFA on one of those platforms, you might as well just go into a room that's empty and just start talking to yourself, because the right type of person is not going to approach you and you're not going to get engagement. And, you know, you might have a bit of fun doing some silly stuff on there, but it ain't going to really support and develop your businesses anyway. But you might want to really consider about moving your efforts and attention, time and money to putting stuff onto LinkedIn, because that's a more professional platform where you've got a slightly older demographic. Facebook could be another one, because the demographic of Facebook is, you know, growing older. As you know, yeah. I mean, I think like my age group is probably one of the most well represented brackets there.
Yeah.
But you know, you just need to. It all comes back to knowing who your customer is, and that will inform you on what digital platforms you need to engage with the most.
So which ones do you engage with the most?
For me, I really like Instagram. I seem to get quite a lot of good engagement on there. I find it's a really nice community feel in comparison to Facebook. So I think I've got like 600 followers on there, which isn't massive, but it's quite an engaged following. You know, I do get comments, I do get likes, which is good. I use it as a sort of a daily diary, quick folio sort of showcase. Facebook was my go-to previously. I've got 1,500 followers on there. I do post to that, but I don't necessarily monitor it as much as I used to. So for social media, they're the two that I go to. Deleted Twitter about 3 or 4 years ago, just didn't really get any traction on there.
No.
Didn't really like it. It was a bit of I think it's a dying platform, if I'm brutally honest. But yeah, Facebook it's there. Instagram's my go-to probably. But I do a lot more on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is the right type of place for me to be, because I sell B2B, business to business. And LinkedIn is full of business owners, decision makers. You know, that's where I need to be. So I put a lot of time and effort into content for that, really.
Yeah. I've seen your content and it is engaging. Definitely.
It's what we aim for.
Yeah. So this year you're celebrating 10 years in business.
Yeah.
Design Pit.
Yes.
And
yeah,
you've released a book called Decade.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, so Decade, author. I've never been called an author before, Mike.
Author, yeah, you're an
quite
author.
nice that. Yeah, I decided to celebrate the decade by writing a book, basically, and showcasing the work that I've done over the first 10 years in business, which was quite nice, actually. Quite nostalgic to look back and remember some of the jobs that I'd forgotten about. I've got quite a robust archiving system, so it was quite nice to check the dates and go through and, you know, see what was going on in what year and remember, you know, the times that we've had. So that was quite nice. And I sort of did it in 12 chapters, basically. So every year there's like a bit of text, you know, to sort of go into more detail about what was going on. So some of the early years are shorter than the more recent ones, because obviously it's easier to recall more recent stuff. But yeah, it was a really nice project to do. It took about 6 months last year. Lots and lots of visual references, and I decided to write the book, produce a limited first edition run, and then basically sell copies, and all of the profits would support a charity that's very close to my heart, Parkinson's UK. My mum suffers from Parkinson's, and it's a truly horrible disease. And I think people see Muhammad Ali and Michael J. Fox, who've got like tremors in their hands and whatnot, and think that's it. But I can tell you for a cast iron certainty, it is a truly horrible disease that gets a lot worse than that. I've supported them over the years, and I thought this would be a great way to showcase what I do, showcase what I've done, share my journey, as interesting or not interesting as that may be to people, but also showcase my ability to design a nice book and produce good quality printed products, which is something else I do through the business, and raise money for a really good cause at the same time. So there's a lot of PR and promo, and use that to market the business as well, while I've been promoting it. And 50 copies, and you've just bought one. I've only got 6 left to sell, so if anyone wants one, just give us a shout.
Yeah, I'll put your details when the podcast is released. I'll put your details in the show notes, but hopefully by then they'll be sold out.
They might have all gone. Yeah, it might have all gone. But yeah, no, thanks for the shout out there, mate. Appreciate
that. That's right. We're drawing to the end of the interview. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you some random questions.
Yeah.
They're unscripted. But don't worry, they're not too deep.
I am worried. About it.
So, what is your favourite type of music?
Oh, crikey. I like a bit of old school rock, a bit of AC/DC. Quite like a bit of Rammstein as well in the gym. Quite like a bit of proper grunty, loud metal rock stuff like that. Yeah.
Do you like any cheesy stuff as well?
Partial to a bit of Elton John.
Yeah, that's cheesy.
Now and again. Yeah, that's quite cheesy, isn't it? Some of his stuff. But yeah, quite like Queen as well. I think Queen's quite cool actually. Since the We Will Rock You film came out with Rami Malek, they've got really cool again. But yeah, I quite like Queen.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything with like proper instruments really, and not too electronic, is good for me.
Yeah, cool. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Favorite film?
Oh, crikey. I've probably got about 50 favorite films in different genres. Love Star Wars. Like any of the Star Wars films, probably the original 3, 4, 5, 6. I love all of them. Lord of the Rings. Really love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I do quite like a good epic sort of. Have you ever seen Last of the Mohicans?
No.
With Daniel Day-Lewis?
No.
That's a good film. I quite like the sort of epicness of old historical stories that might not be factually true or based on any truth, but they sort of depict a story within a time. And The Last of the Mohicans is a bloody good film, and yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Favorite food?
Oh Christ, mate, that's really tough. That is, because I like food generally. Love a curry. I do like being a Brummie as well. I do like a curry. I'm a bit soft now though. I got up when I was at uni, because I went to university in Stoke-on-Trent, and they had some nice curry houses up there actually, because it's the north of the Midlands still. And there's a gang of us at uni, and we got up to sort of seriously hot. You have to train your taste buds, but we got up to beyond the Madras. I think I had a fal once. If anyone's had a fal, that is a super hot curry, but I don't think I could do it anymore. I don't think I could put myself through it.
Initiation ceremony.
Yeah. It's like one of those toilet roll in the freezer overnight jobbies. That was. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite artist?
Oh. Do you know what? I'm going to say my dad.
Wow.
Because my dad paints, and he paints abstract landscape, and I absolutely love his stuff. He's got a great website designed by a really great graphic designer called Robertson.art, and he's got some beautiful, really nice abstract painting. He's got a couple of collections. He's currently working on his third, but and I'm super proud of my dad, because he is retired and he's gone back to painting after many years, and he's making a serious go of it, and he's getting a good reputation. He's got a couple of collectors now, and he does this all while supporting my mum, who's obviously quite poorly with Parkinson's. So it's a bit of a release for him, but he's been really good, sticking with it over the years when it's become more challenging. And I'm super proud of my dad, and he's definitely my favourite artist. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Favourite quote?
Trust your gut, rarely is it wrong. Gareth Robertson, 38, Salisbury. I've said it for years. I don't know where I heard it. I can't remember where I heard it, but I'm going to claim it as my own. But trust your gut, because if it feels wrong, it probably is. If it feels right, yeah, you'll be all right.
Yeah, that's very succinct.
Yeah, motto for life.
Yeah, brilliant, Gareth. Thank you for being a great subject, a great
subject
guinea pig
like that
for my podcast.
Thanks for having me on, mate. Really enjoyed chatting, and when we launch the next series of my podcast, I'll give you a shout. We'll get you on. We'll have the return leg.
Yeah, absolutely.